chime in before we get started? If not, we're gonna run on then. Welcome to the class today. Today we are breaking down the emotional self even further. We gave an introduction of it on Tuesday. You know, the emotional self is aligned with the heart chakra. What we are centering, the whole gist of the lesson is emotional self healing, self forgiveness, and reactive response control. Um, we know that the emotional self is the home of our ego, our anger, our self worth, and healthy and unhealthy attachments. I call it the trauma center of the soul. So we're going to dive in deeper to the emotional self today. And today we're going to be talking about the art of becoming less ego emotional. Uh, Anybody, if you're new here, I make up words every now and again. So yeah, don't worry about it. It will be in Webster soon enough. But yeah, the art of becoming less ego emotional. And today's key phrase is renounce. Renounce. We are renouncing all emotional bullies, all and bully tactics, all emotional manipulators and manipulation, and all emotional abusers and abuse. So, other than we have a few avenues or a few areas that affect us emotionally. Um, um, the biggest influencer on our emotions is that television and the programming that they have on that television. And if you do not believe that the network news is scripted and programmed, then yeah, it's the leader of the programming. We have we sometimes we willingly allow our emotions to be played with and to be manipulated and borderline abused, especially those of us that log in day after day after day. You know, your media of choice, your news of choice. I believe at no time greater than today has our media taken on a role of abusers. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you fall on politically or worldview wise. I feel that our media, one both sides, either side or even the neutral ones, they are emotional abusers. And the reason why I say that is because they have long stopped reporting on events. The media creates news and narratives now. They long stopped being journalists, and now they're all talk show hosts. They just some of them just moonlight on network news. So today, let's make it normal to renounce all emotional bullies, emotional manipulators, and emotional abusers. We're gonna renounce physical bullies, and we've already done all that. But today we're gonna deal with these emotions. And number one, the first thing that we have to do. First of all, anybody got anything to say about my little rant about the media? No matter which side you fall on, anybody want to chime in on that?
I absolutely agree with you. I watched this documentary. They were talking about the news station in Colorado, and basically what they were saying was that like there are more people that have car accidents that are under the influence of marijuana than any other driver on the road.
That's
And so
BS.
they did they did a simulation, and this guy bought a hidden camera in there. Like it was funny, say like no cell phones, no electronics, no, especially no recording of any kind. And so he snuck his cell phone in there and he started recording. And did a news report, and they were basically saying that like the sober drivers had a better driving record than the people under the influence of marijuana. But what they didn't show was that the people that were under the influence of marijuana, when they were given their simulation, first of all, they were driving an 18-wheeler. Second, there were like huge potholes in the road. The
Right.
third thing was like they would have little old ladies come out of nowhere and cross the
Right.
street. And then there was like a hailstorm and a tornado. Like they weren't showing any of that. They were just showing the success rate for both drivers. So that was like one of the biggest lies that they told on there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have to be careful with what we, when we watch the news and watch and hear these statistics thrown out, 70% of this means this and 40% said this, that means 60% said something else, and they craft their programming to fit whatever narrative is serving their purpose. And there are quite a few narratives that are going on. So we really, really, really have to be careful. I want to give folks, if you want some unbiased, unpolitical, untilted one way or another news, check out this place called Before It Is News. Just type that in your browser, and I guarantee you will be grateful. If you are a news junkie, you will be grateful because there's no slant there. So now that we can get away from that, let's look at ourselves, and let's look, because we always here at On the Sevens, I'm always going to point us and me back to ourselves and myself. Let's look at recognizing our emotional triggers. Where do some of our triggers come from? Who and why has placed our emotional triggers where they are? Anybody got any suggestions? Maybe from some past emotional, physical, mental abuse? Childhood. Who is willing to admit that the first bully you ran into was in your own home?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I got talked to worse in my house than I ever did outside of my house. Past childhood trauma, especially unresolved, and any past emotional trauma. Not only was it kind of tough. Our first bully may have been one of our parents. And then, of course, each of us knew the bully at school, but I'm talking about the ones who wasn't even the bullies, your friends who would talk shit about you when you got a new pair of glasses and they called you four eyes because your lenses was way out here. Yeah. Or I had bifocals, and I was one of the first one that had bifocals, and I had to sit in front of the class because I couldn't see shit from the back. And yeah, my friends teased me and called me all kinds of things. Anybody else have big ass glasses when you was in school? And yeah, felt self-conscious about it, not only in your own self, but because of what the other kids were saying and teasing and laughing at you. Your own family call you four eyes. Anybody have any type of physical thing going on in your life that made you a little bit different, and your family, instead of being nurturing, they just pounced on it and always brought it up and always something? Or you ever heard, you young ladies who have brothers, you ever heard somebody say, you just like your daddy, whenever they did something wrong? Yeah, that's emotional abuse.
Hello.
Hi,
it's Jolene. How are you?
Hi, Jolene. How are you?
Oh, I'm tired. I am tired. I'm just tired, but I'm here.
Good. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, physical thing. They used to be calling me about my big nose. I said, yeah, okay, so try to change it. As soon as they try to touch me, that's how I became a fighter.
Absolutely.
That was the beginning of it.
But do you see where that trigger came from? It was you were already self-conscious about it. Nobody needed to tell you.
No, I wasn't.
Oh, okay. So this was something that they just picked out on you. Yeah. Like how like you decided what nose you was gonna get. Like really? Like come on.
It's none of your damn business what I got. And that's what I said. And then
Good.
my mother always said, you know, it doesn't matter. She always said, did they buy you your shoes? Did I buy your shirt? Did I give your food? And that's how, so by the time I got to high school, I didn't have no tolerance for that anymore. I didn't have none of that. And so
Absolutely.
between my sister and my mom, they took care of that in my elementary and junior high. So by the time high school, that's how I became very low tolerant person.
Good, good, good.
And it helped me as a social worker because I'm not drawn into all that drama.
Well, we're gonna get to that. I'm glad you mentioned that because that is one of the topics of discussion today too. Also, do you think some of our emotional triggers come from current or recent failures and disappointments? You think we can get emotional about that job that we lost, or that breakup that we just had, or some kind of monkey wrench was thrown into our well crafted out plan and it didn't happen? Think that could place an emotional trigger on us, or we didn't make it to the fantasy that we had in our head? Think that brings that disappointment, and we consider ourselves a failure, because we don't live up to somebody else's standard? You think
Absolutely.
a lot of us have been through some of that and have had emotional triggers? You have people who they never understand what it is that you do, and when you tell them what it is you do, they just kind of look at you. They give you this look like, oh, and it causes a reaction. It takes a master not to be affected by a slight or a insult or some negative talk coming from somebody else. You have to be a master at not feeling an emotion. I'm not saying about a reaction and all of that. I'm saying not feeling that emotional rise in you. Also, you think we place our own triggers on ourselves sometimes?
Absolutely.
Some of us have some self-inflicted triggers. Again, that comes back to attempting to shove your round ass into a square peg that society says you're supposed to fit, and falling for the lie. It's a big lie going on, you guys, about the American dream. A very small percentage of people ever achieve that elusive American dream. Very small percentage. It should be your individual dream. Stop worrying about this American dream and stop this unrealistic trajectory up this proverbial ladder that don't exist. You determine your success. You determine if it's profitable. You determine your worth. Recognizing our emotional triggers can be kind of painful sometimes, because the reasons why, and we're gonna get into this, the reasons why we hold on to them are something totally different than the trigger in and of itself. See, we're gonna have to examine reasons why, because we can remove the triggers anytime we want. Y'all know that, right? You can remove an emotional trigger anytime you want. So there's a reason why we hold on to the ones that we keep. Anybody got anything to add to that? This is give and take, you guys. I like when y'all give and take it back. I can keep going. It's all good.
I like what you said, but it just takes years to realize that.
Absolutely.
It's true. It just takes years for the consciousness to catch up with the unconsciousness and become one with that understanding. So it just takes time.
It does. Number two. Part of the main focus of awakening to the emotional self is releasing our emotional trauma and baggage. I could pretty much assure that every one of us that's on this call had some sort of childhood trauma that negatively affected us well into adulthood, if not still. childhood trauma, man, you know, if you really just take some time and replay your childhood,
Oh God, no.
all of it, just take some time and be honest when you do this replay. Don't replay the highlights. See, don't do the ESPN top 10. Yeah, play the whole game, the whole game. And I realized that there was a whole, I thought I had the best little childhood ever. And some of the folks who I grew up with would probably think I did. They didn't live in the house I lived in, so they don't know. And then when I went back and replayed the whole tape, not just the highlights, not just the top 10. First of all, I didn't even get a top 10. There was no top 10 for me. It was always a bottom 10. And that bottom 10 filled up real quick. And I was always reminded of what I wasn't. Never applauded for what I was or who I was. Always reminded of what I wasn't and what I was not going to be. You know, I heard that I wasn't going to be about shit so much that when I got smart and told my grandmother that means I'm going to be successful, she slapped me in my mouth. That was traumatic. Every time I wrote a little note to a little girl in one of my classes and passed it to her, and she didn't look over at me or acknowledge I sent the note, that was traumatic for a little shy, little introvert like me at that age. That was traumatic. Every time somebody threatened to kick my ass, even though I stood my ground, it still was traumatic. Every time I was threatened regularly. I was threatened every day in my house by my grandmother. Real legitimate physical harm threats. That was traumatic. That, regardless of how I processed through it, regardless of how I decided to look at it, regardless of what I use as my avenue of escape, the shit was still traumatic. There were anybody else had some childhood traumas that the story you used to tell or currently tell about your childhood really ain't lining up because it really ain't true?
Yeah, absolutely. I realized like a lot of the, I want to call it over nurturing, where like I naturally have a nurturing, demeanor, but sometimes it's like I nurture to people that don't deserve it. And I remembered like I want to say I was 10 and we had just moved to Virginia.
Mhm.
And I got home from school one day and my mom was in the closet. I couldn't find her. It was really quiet. I'm walking around the house looking for her, and I found her like crunched over in the closet, trying to commit suicide.
Wow.
And I had to stop her from that. And when I look back on it, like that wasn't the only time she attempted to do that. So like as an adult, when I look back on my childhood and I think about the multiple times that I caught my mom attempting to commit suicide, or the multiple times where she did, or just the things that I went through with her in general, I understand a bit more like why I forgive as easily and as much as I do, even when people don't deserve it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's tough, especially, your first instance at 10 years old. I can just imagine you adored your mother, and I know how you felt about your mom. So, I mean, when you were 10, your mama was the goddess. She was everything. And
Yeah.
for you to have to see that and to have that fantasy of her just crash right down, I know that it had to be traumatic. And then it just started a pattern of trauma responses between you and your mom. You see how that pattern, see how it just began and it's still not finished. The cycle
Yeah.
is still not finished. It's at its end, but you understand what I mean when I'm telling you this, that's one of the cycles that started a long 18, 19 years ago, honeybee. Yeah. 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 Anybody else want to share? How anybody? Oh, okay. How about other growing up developmental injuries? Uh, um, some of the decisions and choices and some of the folks we decide to align ourselves with, and some of the things um that I was exposed to. I was exposed to
Oh, where is it?
a bunch of stuff.
Why is it black?
Talking illicit drugs, I'm talking sex, I'm talking all alcohol at a very, very, very young age. And it was normalized in my
But we
family.
could talk about a big one that was very normalized in the Black community, and actually a lot of communities, to be truthfully honest, not just the Black community. And it does affect people almost their entire life.
It does.
And nobody actually talks about it when they're talking about sexual abuse, when you're talking about being molested by your uncle or
By
somebody,
your uncles.
somebody
I
in your
was
house,
look.
or when you are molested by your aunt and your sister, or you're molested by your best friend or your big brother or big sister's friends or family, or everybody has had some kind of sexual trauma.
Yes.
Whether it was a first boyfriend who raped you and you were hoping that he was going to be gentle and cute and cool with you. And those are a lot of those silent triggers that people don't talk about, feel like it's taboo to talk about. And actually, a lot of times, remove the trauma from their mind so they don't think about it at all or act like it doesn't even happen, but
Absolutely.
not realizing that a lot of the things that you're doing is in direct reflection to that. I'm sorry, y'all.
It's okay. It's okay. I was just talking with someone about this exact thing. I want to normalize calling out them creepy ass men in the family that have every girl child scared to death. I mean, it is wrong, and it always has been, and it always will be. Some of us never recover from that. Some of us never recover from that. What are some other growing up developmental injuries that we can go through?
I think it's very important to address not how all of those that have been mentioned kind of like layer or move into the whole notion of children, especially like the older child, having to parent the parent.
That part too.
Children that are the oldest never really identifying with their own child's self, never ever actualizing as a child, going through that phase of developmental childhood. Like, you're 6 years old, you need to identify with that at some point. That's something that family members don't think about when, you have siblings that you have to tend to, and not even because you have to. I'll just speak for myself and say it was a personal decision because of love, and I didn't trust anybody. And I think it was really important to just feel that sense of like keeping secrets about what was happening in your household so that the rest of the world, the outside world, didn't immediately have any kind of judgment about what your parent was or was not being or was not doing for you. Of course, family members know stuff that's going on, but again, that plays into what you just talked about when it comes to protecting the uncles and the cousins and the aunties and the pastors and the Sunday school teachers and all the people who had some kind of an influence on you as a child, just not allowing you or supporting you to be a child, having to grow up before your time, so to speak, having to be an adult when you're 9 years old is really,
absolutely,
it's devastating. You don't really realize that until you live a little life.
Absolutely. And it happens to so many of us I know for a fact, those of us that grew up in the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s, yeah, we dealt with some parents that, yeah, when they had us, they wasn't too responsible. And we seemed like we came to be the parent. They actually were the child. And just like Tamika just said, having to, me having to go get medication from grandmother, grandfather, and my mom, and having to pay bills at 10, 11, 12 years old when my buddies was out at the park shooting marbles and playing basketball. I wasn't able to enjoy all of those things. Yeah, I got to enjoy a lot of stuff, but there was some stuff I couldn't because I had responsibility. It wasn't my responsibility, but it was given to me. And I had to face that and had to grow up at an accelerated pace. What about forced compliance to unhealthy behaviors?
I was just thinking that. I was just thinking that.
Forced compliance to unhealthy behaviors. Yeah, that's traumatic. It's again, there are things that parents do that they have no idea the damage and the trauma that it puts on the children, even if something as innocent, and I've mentioned this before, as innocent as going to church. Now, all of us on this call have been influenced by the church one way or another. If you believe it or not, you're in this country that it's predominant. So you have been influenced, whether you wanted to or not, by religion. With that influence, we have been forced, some of us have been forced into complying with almost impossible restrictions on you. Me and a friend of mine, we talked about this years ago. We went through a literal review of the Bible, and we said, you know what, man, the requirements to get into heaven, can't nobody make them. Nobody's going to be able to get there. Heaven's going to be empty. It's going to be empty based on the what it says in the book. Now, based on what preachers tell you, everybody going to make it. But that's not what the book says. The book don't say it like that. So, or how about you in a family and you got 4 siblings in front of you, and all 4 of them toed the line, and you a little wild, and you being forced to comply with what the other 4 did.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm kind of jumping in real quick. I know I've been quiet,
okay.
And usually I'm very talkative. My phone is like,
I know what you got going on.
Stuff going on, and I do need to jump off right now because it's 5 o'clock and I got a photo shoot in an hour.
Okay.
But I definitely will be back. I enjoy listening to you all, and I definitely will enjoy, seeing and speaking with you more often in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming, Desiree. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So all of that, every time you had to go think about the psychology. This was probably kids from the 70s on backwards. Think about this psychology when you had to go outside to get a switch to whoop your own ass.
That was traumatic.
Traumatic. You think about it. Think another one of those trauma things. When I was a kid, I never had to worry about this, but my friends always did. When they be messing up during the day, and mama would come out and say, "I'm gonna tell your daddy on you when he get home from work." You know how traumatic that is for that kid for the rest of the day, knowing that he getting ready to get mollywopped by dad soon, because you know mom gonna put extra on it. Trauma. It's traumatic, man. It's traumatic. First time I was liking this girl, walked up to her, told her I liked her, and she took off running and laughing. It was traumatic. That was traumatic. Forced compliance to unhealthy behaviors. You're gonna do what I say do if it kills you. Yeah. Uh-huh. Number three. Big part of awakening to your emotional self is the reducing of our emotional drama with emotional detachment. Now, this is tricky and sticky because you start telling people to detach from other people and they get all, oh my gosh, I can't detach from my kids. Oh my, I'm their mother. How can I detach from my kids?
He's a drama. He's so dramatic.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
I'm laughing at you.
You would be surprised. Why do we consume emotional drama?
That's what we're taught to do.
Who taught you that?
My mama and her mama.
You
And
saw
her
the
mama.
pattern in the pattern, right?
Yeah.
In the pattern. What is the benefit of it? Has anybody ever figured out the benefit of because some of us, we just at the trough of emotional drama. Just give me more, give me more, give me more, give me more. Why do we consume it? If you
They
know,
don't see nothing different. That's why. Because they don't see nothing different. That's why.
if you know, this is why I don't watch network TV at all. If I know that there's something that they say, first of all, ain't gonna align with my soul, and secondly, gonna piss me off, I don't even watch it. I don't allow too much of anything outside of me to punch an emotional trigger on me. That's just me though. That's just me. I can detach from the news. I can detach from politics. I can detach from religion. I can detach from sports. It don't mean nothing to me. Nothing. I don't care.
Can I share a funny story?
Yes.
I went to get a pedicure, and this is my first pedicure in like 4 years because I don't go to those places that who don't care about me. I really don't. Okay, but I went today. So they have these big TVs, right? They have these big TVs, and they put the volume up. And so, you know me, okay, you do that, but I'm watching you. You know what that girl did? She just tapped on my toes. I said, excuse me. I pointed to the tools that she's going to use. And I said, use this one and go back on that. Because she thought I was into that TV. I'm not your fool. I'm not your fool. I'm not your fool. And so at the end, I said, she did a good job, but she only went back into my toes when she saw that I was watching her. And then at the end of it, I say, I'll see y'all in 4 years. I don't do that. I watch you, and one time you play with me and I'm done. And
absolutely.
I didn't like that at all.
Absolutely. I'm kind of like George W. Bush on that too. Fool me once, shame on you. You're not gonna get a chance to fool.
You asking me for $35 to play with my toes. Okay. Yeah, okay.
No.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
Why do we consume some of the stuff that we do when we know it's emotional drama? Why do we do it? But does it feed a need in each one of us? Does it feed a need?
It feeds a need. I think I love Eckhart Tolle's term, the pain body, and that everybody has one. And that's a good scenario for me because I had one for a lot of years, but when I got rid of it, like you said, no TV. My granddaughter just gave me a TV about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't had a TV. I went to Germany 25 years. I don't have TVs. I don't bother TVs. I don't like. And then when I was over with my grandsons this week, I said, it's time for you to go home because that TV stays on.
Right.
And I can't handle all that. And then they be cussing and they be fighting and they be this and they be that
It's just,
and all that. And they sit around, they're in their 30s. But they haven't, I got off of drugs at 34. I've been clean 36 years. And so when God took me off the drugs, he took me off the TV because I was TV bound too.
all right.
So my thing is, you've got to have something that happens inside of us
Yes.
that will support us and guide us in what is healthy to enter into us. And when they ran and strangling and raping children and kidnapping, I can't watch that. I don't want to see it. That's not
Yeah.
the world that I see. The world
Absolutely.
I see is
Absolutely.
different, and I don't want anybody tampering with that. So I have to watch myself when I'm around them because I watch a few of the things. Halston was interesting. A couple of things was interesting. Got a good message out of it. If I can get a good but all that cussing and killing and this and that and all that and shooting, you can't take me there. I don't want to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I haven't paid a cable bill since 2006.
Good for you.
And I haven't been in a movie theater since Creed. I did go see Creed.
Yeah.
I did. That was like
Queen.
4 years ago. That was the last
Queen
time I
was
worked
good.
in a movie theater.
Queen was a good flick. I saw that. That was a good flick.
Yeah, Creed. I wanted to support that young black guy, but I haven't been in a movie theater since, and I really don't want to go.
Can we all agree and all admit that we know somebody that is attached to emotional drama, or have had people in our lives that are attached to?
No, because I let them go.
But we know, but you know of them, right?
I don't have that
know.
drama in my life. I do not.
I know. I don't have it anymore, but I've had
it. You would have to pay me to deal with the drama. That's how I became a social worker. If I'm gonna deal with, I'm gonna get paid for it. Other than that, no.
I got you. I got you. And I asked the question, why are we and why are some of us attached to emotional drama? Is it because it makes us feel needed and important?
Yep. That's like people who stay sick. They get attention. They want that attention. Oh, come on, you gotta wheel me around in a wheelchair. You gotta come. They get attention.
So when do we allow ourselves to realize that we actually weren't? We might have been needed, but we were just used as a trash receptacle to allow the people to dump all of their emotional BS on us.
Oh yeah.
Usually when it becomes too overwhelming, we figure it out.
It is. Yeah.
And what are some of the practices and mechanisms that some of us use when it does become overwhelming? What do we do when it, or does it become overwhelming?
I turn my phone off and I meditate.
I'd meditate too. I breathe and meditate and pray and start writing and journaling. I do a little bit of everything, whatever that scene calls for.
Okay.
Y'all have to excuse me. My phone may turn off. I got mad.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. Thank you.
The importance of this, we get to choose the type of emotional energy that we allow in our environment.
Yes.
Each one of us has the choice. So you get to choose. So if your environment is dramatic, it's your choice.
Mm-hmm. Come on.
That's right. That's right.
If your environment is toxic, because we get to choose. We get to choose if we care. I mean, not care. If we give a or not. See, giving 0 fucks doesn't mean you don't care. It just means that you care about you more than that other stuff. You will get to the other, but you got to put you in the number one spot.
Absolutely.
You must put you in the number one spot.
A little bit.
You have to put you in the number one spot.
So you might have to explain.
Wait, what about now?
So that's why I asked the question, why do we consume emotional drama? Some of us drink it like it's a 40 ounce, just bam, just right to the head.
You know, a lot of it ties into generational curses. I watched this, I'm always watching documentary. I watched this little documentary and this lady was saying, she said that she went to pick her son up from school one day and this Caucasian lady came up to her and was like, hey, you have to be so proud of your son. He's graduating valedictorian of this class. Like, you just have to be so proud. That's a major accomplishment. And she was like, yeah, but he just get on my nerves and he lazy and he this and I'm proud, but he's just annoying. And she's like, what about you? You should be proud of your son. He's graduating salutatorian of his class. Aren't you proud? She was like, yeah, he's hardworking. He's dedicated. He's fun. He's a great guy. And she said on her way home, she thought about it and she was like, dang, why did I say that about my son to this lady? Like, it was so many other things I could have said. And she went and she started to do some research and she found out like back when our ancestors were on a plantation, when the slave master would come out, they would look for like the strongest, tallest, biggest, buffest, man on the field. And in order for the mother to protect the family, to keep the family together so that the son doesn't get sold and separated from the rest of the family, she'd be like, you don't want him, he's stupid, he lazy, he don't do nothing. Like, you don't go pick somebody else. Yep. You don't want him. Yep. And that just kind of what started out as a defense mechanism trickled over the years into an abuse technique. Absolutely. So like a lot of the things that we experience with our parents and their parents experience with them, like it comes from generational curses. Mm-hmm. And we just have to become aware of it and break that pattern.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
I still don't understand that. I really don't. Why would I understand, because of course we were not living in the slave times.
Right.
It's been years old, and it's tiring. It's tiring to see the same thing because people really not having this conversation. So I like coming on here because it's a conversation that's really different, and I like it and it's supportive and it's a positive. And, people not reaching out for those new conversations and it's tiring. And as a social worker, I see it and it's tiring, but I think I'm an advocate and someone has to be in the gap. Someone has to say something different. It's tiring to hear that. It's sad.
It is.
It is. It really is. Thank you for that. Tamika, you have any thoughts on that?
You know where I am, honestly. I see myself as quite the anomaly. And even if I were to go back 20 years ago, and I think about, the example that, Honeybee gave, I think I never agreed with any of the mindset, even though I was not conditioned or taught to think differently. I just had that in me especially when I had my own children. There's no way I would even think, because again, it was not talked about in my household, slavery and all that. Yes, we talked about roots. We watched the series as a family. I was probably all of 7 or 8 years old when it initially started. My grandmother gave us more information about her relationship to Alex Haley than she actually talked about slavery. My grandfather had no words about it. Unfortunately, my family did focus on letting the school educate us instead of us having familial conversations about our heritage and our background. But those practices, this woman speaking on behalf of her valedictorian son versus the other woman's salutatorian son, and then going back and identifying, where it's possible that she, is conditioned genetically or however you want to say it. I haven't done enough scientific empirical study research on my own to say that I can concur with that type of thinking. I do understand it is real. I have read about post-traumatic slave syndrome. I do believe it is very real. However, you know how I parent my children. You know how I parented my children, much to the chagrin of my own family, much to the chagrin of their fathers. To me, I wanted them to see from a different lens and not from, oh, and my thoughts of them were always much higher than whatever it was that any other society could say that they're supposed to be because of what our heritage is. So yeah, no, it's this, the pathology to me, that's the part where the healing needs to happen. And that's pretty much where my focus is. And that's the kind of work that I've been implored to do. That's been my focus, my whole life, is how to change the mindset. Even if that is something that we were conditioned to learn in the church, in the household, because we're Black, it's an assumption that we are of Africans, of slavery and all those things. It's damaging. It is damaging, and it's too late to take back the impression that you gave that woman about your valedictorian son to her salutatorian son. Yeah, both are accomplishments, but it takes a lot, it takes a lot for a child, especially today, with all of the distractions and all of the possibilities of what they could be doing instead of studying, instead of being in the AP classes, instead of being in the IB programs, instead of going to, class at 5:30 in the morning so that you can take an exam when you're only in 9th grade for a college course. I mean, those are things that you can't discount.
Right.
So I find it very disheartening. It's difficult to watch television because of it, and I don't, and you know that. It's just a whole lot to put into this. This would be a show all by itself if you were to focus there. But yeah, that's my 20 cents worth as a parent.
All right. And Queen, if you have any comments or anything you would like to add, I'm glad that you're here. Chime in if you will.
I think if my daughter's 32, she's still living in New York, in the Bronx. She has two masters. I didn't never tell her to go get it. I showed her when I was in class. I put her in private school. When I had class, she saw what I went to school. She saw I studied. I put her in the daycare of my college, and I just took her so she can see what her mama is doing. Absolutely. And then every time I tell her about school and everything, I was just sharing with her. Yep. I just shared. She still has my first literature book. It's like a 500-page. The girl will not part with that because it's all literature. The girl, she's a writer. She loves reading. See? And I think we talk so much without showing. We have to take these kids. Before 9/11, she was down in Manhattan, in the museum, in the library, learning. Now we have, the computers wrapping up. It's like strangling our children. It's terrible.
It is. Different era, different time.
But we have to, we have to really be the people. We got to be showing.
Absolutely. That's why we're here. That's why.
Yeah. And as a therapist, I tell the mothers too, medication. My child is hyper. I said, did you find maybe, you could put them in dance class and gym class and stuff, but they don't want to spend money. They don't want to, they rather spend money on Jordans than putting them in a dance class.
No, it's not right. It's not.
I'm telling you, it's real. I'm telling you, it is real. This lady brought her kid in the hospital looking for something to calm him down. And all she said, he jumps on furniture, backflips, and all this. And she doesn't realize what she's saying. She's saying her answer. She's saying what could help.
Absolutely.
They're great. These people are.
Thank you for that, Jolene.
Oh, I'm going to shut up now.
No worries. Queen, go ahead. The floor is yours.
I'm just listening in today.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. Keep coming back. We get it right every now and again, and we're grateful for your presence. Thank you very much. With that, I'm gonna wrap it up. I've been running off at the mouth long enough, but I want to leave us with this one thought. I want to leave us with this one thought. Your first obligation is to your soul. yourself. Everyone else gets in line behind you.
Absolutely.
Your first obligation is to your soul, yourself. Everyone else gets in line behind you. I'm thankful for everybody. I'm grateful. This has been a lovely time, and I'm looking forward to Tuesday's show, and then come back. We're gonna have a special new moon show on the 10th. So look for the email to come out for that, or the announcement on Facebook. Anybody got any other announcements? Anything going on with anybody that want to let everybody know? You can let the whole world know. We're on Facebook.
Oh shoot, you're on Facebook?
Yes, we are.
Oh shoot, I didn't know that. Oh my
Jolene,
goodness.
Jolene, you know I always go live.
See, I haven't been on Facebook in a while. So I forget. Oh shoot.
It's okay.
I gotta find it on Facebook.
Yeah. You have are you and I friends on the book?
No, I would have to go to the computer and find you.
Okay, well, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You know, when you get a chance.
I know we're on LinkedIn. I found you on LinkedIn.
Yeah. When you get a chance,
Okay.
just when you get a chance. All right.
Wow.
Anybody else?
So will you be on Tuesday? Will you be going over the rest of the sevens?
Oh yes, yeah. We've already hit a few of the. We talked about the spiritual self, the physical self, the mental self. We're on the emotional self. Then we're going to jump into the intellectual self and the financial self and the sexual self. Yeah, just keep coming back. We'll be here every Tuesday and Saturday. I'll break it on down. Thank you all for being here. Be kind to yourselves and each other. See you guys on Tuesday. Goodbye for now.